I'm Anne-Marie, and today I'm joined by Joe and Michael Bailey. Joe was on my previous episode for January, Remap Your Resolution. And Joe is a licensed psychologist, and his current book, Thriving in the Eye of the Hurricane, is available on Amazon and possibly all good bookshops as well. And Michael, his wife, is a visual artist and poet, and her poetry inspires her painting. She also works with mixed media, and she has a YouTube channel called Michael Bailey Artist if you want to look her up. And thank you both for coming, Joe and Michael.
Good to be here.
Good to be here. Yeah.
And the reason I invited you both was because when I spoke to Joe, he was talking about when he first met Michael and how it was like a lightning bolt experience. And as I'm planning to do well, this is a Remap Your Valentine, so it's going to be published on Valentine's Day. I thought it'd be nice to talk to Michael about whether she had a similar experience. I know you both met at Sydney Banks. Sorry, is that a bad question to ask, Joe? Should I not ask that question? So I just wondered what it was like for you, Michael, when you first met Joe. Was it love at first sight?
Well, actually, it was. Prior to meeting Joe, our friends Keith and Valda. So Keith and Joe went to graduate school together, and at the same time, Valda and I were best friends in another state. And so anyway, they had talked about Joe, and I was very interested. I had listened to Sid Banks tapes, and I was very interested in meeting Sid. And so, when they told me that he was going to be in Florida, that I wanted to go. Then they told me Joe was going to be there, and I guess I thought I couldn't walk and chew gum at the same time. So that was like, okay, fine. I'm really honed in on Sid Banks here. This is where I'm going. But I think you and Keith picked me up from the airport. Well, I must have been on the same plane with him. You must have picked me up. I don't know how it happened, but I saw him at the airport. And it was like, whoa.
She looked really cute. Very short shorts, by the way.
Well, you had on shorts too, and I thought, he's got nice legs. But anyway, and so I thought, well, that's kind of cool. And so in a way, when I first saw him, it was kind of like, oh, he's got my attention. And then prior to meeting Sid, we were at the same place, and it was definitely all over. It's like we went for a walk. There was a place called
Venetian.
The Venetian Pool, which was really beautiful. It wasn't like a normal swimming pool, public swimming pool. It had it kind of one pool connected to the other. There was little caves and so on and so forth. And so we spent some time together, but we decided as we left the pool we should actually kiss. And at every Spanish
palm tree.
Spanish home and palm tree. So it was already fixed from then.
Yeah, that was every house, pretty much.
Pretty much every house. And so that was the end of the story right there. And it was much to my surprise because that was not, he was not what I had on my mind. So I don't know how much more you want me to say other than everyone at the conference and during that time thought we had at least been dating for 2 years.
Wow.
But we had only known each other a few days.
I know because I spoke to Christine before I even spoke to Joe and Christine Heath, and she said, because Joe introduced her to Sydney Banks, or the three principles, and they were talking about him going to that event where he met you, and she said he spent 90% of the time talking about you and 10% of the time talking about Sydney Banks.
Yes, true.
So,
yeah.
So, yes.
Yeah, can I the other side of that a little for just briefly, because I know I covered this before, but yeah, so I had always been looking for the perfect woman to make me feel complete. And I thought my happiness was about a relationship, being in a relationship. I didn't know that I had to be the love I was looking for to attract the love I was looking for. And so I had it backwards, yeah, completely backwards. And so when Keith and Valda told me about Sid, I was kind of like, oh, what is this? Another California weird trip or something? But then they started talking about Michael, and I thought, oh, well, maybe. So that was a little bit of the bait to get me hooked, because I was pretty skeptical at that point as a psychologist. I'd done Zen, I'd done yoga, I had done every kind of psychotherapy, every self-help program, group, 12 steps, you name it. And I just didn't think any of it, there was nothing new that was going to happen. But when I met Sid, it was like an explosion of all my beliefs, number one. Everything I thought I knew about being a psychotherapist was down the drain. But at the same time, I felt alive. And I didn't know if I was falling in love with her, if that was it, or if it was meeting Sid, or if it was a combination. But I hadn't felt like that since I was a little boy. I felt free and, just very attracted to her and very in love. But I didn't know how to be in love with someone in a relationship. And so that's where the principles really came into it, because it really helped me learn how to listen, number one, without an agenda or interpretation. And I'm still learning to do that, by the way. And to speak from my heart rather than from an agenda or from a maneuver, to be authentic. And the principles return us to our true self. And Michael and I really wrote the book together, Slowing Down to the Speed of Love, many, many years later, as a kind of a guidebook to not only falling in love, but staying in love and deepening love from a deep understanding. Because the principles really, without the principles, I don't think we'd still be married. I'd be on my third marriage, or fourth or fifth or sixth by now. Because the principles allowed us to keep our grounding and to hang in there during the tough times, because in any relationship, there is, separate realities colliding. You want to tell the insurance story?
I could tell that. Well, this is a good one. Let's see, should I? I was going to say something before that, because that kind of went along with what you said. I came from a little bit different place, and about meeting the next person, falling in love, and so on and so forth. And so the interesting setup was that quite some time before I met Joe, I just, you would date and so on and so forth. And it was after a while I thought, really? Am I like, this is kind of like, they're okay people, but I could maybe be doing other things here. This is a lot of time spent. I thought, I think I'm back in the mentality of like high school, that in colleges, you just, you date and then you find the next person. And so I just blew the whole thing off. And I thought, okay, the only thing I am interested in. So it was kind of my wish. So this was the product of my wish. So the only thing I'm interested in is, I really don't want to waste my time. I just want to find the person that's going in the same spiritual direction I am. And I just kind of let it go. And so I had no expectations about Joe or anybody or anything. So it was a quite wonderful, fresh experience. It was like, oh, wow. Oh, okay. So this is happening. All right. But that was kind of in alignment with what Joe was saying, is that, it's really, he couldn't tell whether it was Sid or whether it was, us meeting, is because the principles were actually kind of the foundation of our relationship.
Exactly. Yeah.
So that you want me to
Lucky
tell
us.
the
Yeah, now tell
Okay.
So our first argument.
Well, I don't know if it was an argument. It was just a weird thing. So
it was a collision of separate realities.
Anyway, so Joe and I had moved up here. Well, there's story in between that, but when I moved up to Minnesota, and by the way, people says, "Oh, aren't you brave to just get up and move, and you really don't know this guy that well?" And I remember taking that in, thinking, "Why would I be brave? It's just you just know where you're going." So here we are together, and we're having this great relationship and living together. And so at one point, Joe calls me.
I'm in the bathtub.
Yeah, he's in the bathtub. Yeah, I couldn't tell whether we should leave that out or not.
We don't have any photos. It's all right.
I don't. And it's like I'm pretty hang loose. So he's in the bathtub, and he hollers for me to come in. I come in, and so I thought, I wonder what he has to say. And he says, "What was it?
We need to talk.
We need to talk." And I thought, "Whoa, he looks really serious." And I thought, wonder what this is. And I thought, well, maybe this is the end. It was good while it went. And I said, "Okay, what do you want to talk about?" And he looks at me really stern. He says, "Insurance." And I just cracked up laughing. I thought, what the hell, insurance? He says, "You don't have any insurance, do you?" And I thought, well, maybe, I don't know. It hadn't been big on my, my starving artist list, but and so on and so forth. But so it was really fun to watch separate realities come together at this point. And you want to continue?
Yeah, so I grew up in a family where half my relatives sold insurance. And there was a strong belief in the family you had to have life insurance, health insurance, disability insurance, liability insurance, insurance for your toenails, everything, And so when she didn't have, it was like, oh my God, she's living with me and something happens to her. Oh, I'll be bankrupt, or, it just seemed like a mortal sin that she didn't have insurance.
Seemed like a joke to me. Okay,
and she laughed. She laughed. And I said, well, you're not taking me very seriously, as the water got colder in the bathtub during the discussion.
So we are quite different. Actually, it's quite funny because both of us, we're pretty much total opposites. We do not see anything the same way, and we get along really good. But it's like if the way, the insurance thing, it's like we just we come together in a very interesting way, and it kind of proves that you do not have to have everything in common, because I'm not sure we have much. We have one thing in common: the woods, the outdoors, and nature. Oh, yeah. That's probably it.
And our spiritual direction,
and the principles. Well, of course, that was going to be a given, but yeah. So it kind of
it's that old opposites attract in a way.
Yeah.
The law of complementarity in family therapy, people who are different learn from each other and expand each other if they can speak from the heart and be open and listen and not be threatened. Then you each get bigger, and that's what's happened. I've appreciated her depth and her poetry, and things that are very much Michael, like art. Art was kind of off my radar, and I wouldn't say I'm like a big art hound or anything now, but I can go on art galleries with her and appreciate them, and so our worlds expanded because pretty soon within a month she was winter camping in northern Minnesota and made her own snow cave and had Sorel boots and warm clothes.
I'm from the South. You may not know that.
I gathered by your accent, yeah.
and then a few months later, we were rock climbing a Devil's Tower, this huge mountain in out west. And so my world was outdoors and adventure, and her world was too.
Well, it was too. Actually, I kind of grew up as
You were game for anything.
Well, I was game for anything, but I also grew up where every day of my life I crawled over a 12-foot chain link fence with barbed wire on top and went over the top. All of us did, and we went into this woods that was 40 acres that connected to another 40 acres, and collected turtles and wrote their name in nail polish on them, and explored and did all that sort of thing. And so climbed trees and so on and so forth. So I was I was pretty much a tomboy and very outdoorsy. So in that way, we came together in a very complimentary way. But the winter camping was not anything I knew a thing about. And to drive over a frozen lake was not really in my world. So
With a car.
With a car. So I learned to expand my appreciation of nature.
Would you say your coming together was thinking of three principles? Would you say it was a case of universal mind? Do you think it was a greater power that drew you together?
Absolutely.
Without a doubt.
I don't know when would be time to read that poem.
Why don't you read it at the end?
Okay.
Yeah, Michael has a wonderful poem about that.
Okay.
It actually speaks to that question.
But yeah,
definitely,
where we come
100%.
from, where the three principles come from is we're all God in form and we just don't know it. We're all divine spark of the universal intelligence. And so that's all one thing. There is no separation there. And so that's how coincidences happen. That's how intuition works. That's how ESP works. That's how knowing your purpose in life. How you feel drawn. You run into exactly the right person to create the opportunity for this and that. And so there's a universal intelligence, just like there is in nature, that allow all the plants to pollinate each other with the birds and the bees and all of that. That same intelligence is part of us. That's who we are. But we've covered it up with the ego, with the voice of our personal thought system. And as we see past our own personal thinking, we reveal this spiritual reality, this oneness that puts us at ease and gives us the experience of resilience, mental health, spiritual connectedness, that is the link between the spiritual and the psychological realms. I was just interviewing another author yesterday who writes books about purpose. And what he calls purpose, I call the true self. That when you're being your true self, you're coming from there. You know what your purpose is. You're driven to it. You're drawn to it. So whether it's a relationship or a career, this intelligence guides us in every aspect of our life.
So I could comment on that.
Go for it.
That's why wish worked. That's why my wish worked. And a wish is nothing more than an intention. But if it's grounded in universal consciousness, in universal will, instead of your own personal crazy will and belief systems and so on and so forth, if it's grounded in that universal will, then you don't have to think about it. You don't have to fool with it. And also within that wish, if it wasn't going to go that way and I was to be by myself, I was cool with that too. So it's like you really know that deep inside of you that there's direction and answers, and you might not be able to see them, and you don't have to see them, because that's each moment is new, and that's what that's the whole thing about living in the unknown, as they say, which is to me really just living in endless possibilities. But that, when I said that my intention, it was free of expectation. And it was interesting, like Joe talked about, how things move and fit together, and they're happening all day and long in our life in the most ordinary way. You happen to be, you know, at a particular store at a particular time. I mean, it really is goes from the ordinary to the extraordinary, and from love to whatever. So
Finding the perfect pair of pants that you were looking for that you didn't even know you wanted.
absolutely, at the perfect deal. So
Maybe the one lover would be good to read now.
say that.
Would you like to hear Michael's poem?
Yeah, sure.
It really speaks to what we're talking about right now in a really beautiful, profound way.
So I think people sometimes have a lot of ideas about what love is, and that's how it gets mixed up with jealousy and like I was talking to somebody who worries a lot, and they worry all the time, and then I realized in talking to them that they thought that when they worried about their kids, that meant they loved them. And so I looked and I said, well, it seems like it would be really difficult for you to let go of worry, because in your mind, it means you'd be letting go of loving your kids or your children or your mate or whatever. But I don't remember when I wrote this. It's been a long time. And it's called One Lover. I have only one lover, if the truth was known, one confidant that understands and guides me through the unknown. This lover is the only one capable of neutrality that brings me back to balance and shows me how to see. No one else can fill that place. Our human nature blocks the way. So it's just me and the source playing every day. When this life ends and I travel on to other ways, it'll still be us together experiencing another phase. My only goal is to be united, one with my only dream, to see there is no separation between me and the source of me. So I think that deeper one goal is what allows me, and I think allows other people, to really build their marriage and really move forward in the relationship. And so we come together, like Joe and I come together to whatever presents itself in our life, in a situation and maybe a disagreement or a misunderstanding, is that we see that it's really up to each one of us to go inside and see what that situation is telling us about our own limitations. And in that, we can come together and build beyond that for both of us. And I think that is I can't imagine how you could do it any other way. I think a lot of times in life before, I've done it other ways, but I didn't realize that was actually what was happening. I didn't trust it 100%. I didn't know what it was. And so therefore, not knowing what it was, I didn't know I could trust it 100%. And I think that arrangement is probably that meeting the person that we're both going the same spiritual direction. And even if you aren't, I don't think that even has to be an absolute for a relationship at all. I just think that's how I got into this one, and it worked out great. But I think when we have a relationship with a deeper aspect of ourselves, I think it really doesn't matter, about where the other person, exactly where they are. We can work it out.
Yeah, we can work it out. The Beatles. Sorry, we're in England, or the UK. Beatles keep coming to me.
The Beatles. When you listen, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, when you listen to the Beatles' music, I think almost every single song of theirs sort of talks to the three principles. If you listen to the lyrics, they're all very three principles in sound and in lyrical content.
I got to see the Beatles when I was 16. It's on my resume, at the top of my resume. They came to Minnesota of all godly places. I wanted to comment on what Michael was saying. I'm not sure if I remember what I was going to say now, but I think having the essence of Michael's poem, One Lover, that when you're always true to your self, not ego self, but your divine self, and you're getting your cues from that, then when you run into conflict in a relationship, you, rather than arguing with the other person, and not to say that we don't sometimes still fall into that because we're human, we do, but we catch it, we realize it, and for me it's, okay, what am I not seeing here? What is there for me to realize that I don't yet see, a blind spot? And maybe I should just listen and see what there is for me to learn here. And when you have that stance on a relationship, it just keeps getting better and better and better. We've been together for 40 years. Long time. So far, so good. And none of my other relationships ever lasted very long. I was a serial monogamist. You know, I had many relationships, and they just never quite worked out. It was always, they weren't quite right. It wasn't right, the right thing. But it was really, and maybe it was just so I would appreciate Michael even more. Who knows, the divine intelligence and how it all works. But there are no failures, really, if you're open. Even a marriage or a love relationship that doesn't work out, it's all grist for the mill. It's all an opportunity to discover something deeper about yourself. So if you harvest that insight from your failures and your successes, you'll just keep growing into who you already are. So marriages and relationships are just a wonderful sounding board for our egos to know when we're caught up. You can't get away with anything in a relationship. It all comes to, it can all be in a hermit in a cave somewhere, and you just got you and yourself. But when you're with another person, it forces the issue because you love them and you want to keep that love, and so you open your mind a little bit more. So I think relationships are, with an understanding, are just a wonderful tool for evolution of consciousness. And not that you have to be in a relationship to evolve in consciousness. You don't. You can evolve in infinite ways. But you can't get away with much in a relationship. The shit floats to the top. Pardon my French. Can we edit that part out?
It's an adults only channel. I think it'll be fine.
Okay. Yeah. Well, you get the whole package, Michael.
Yeah.
So when you were talking about, conflict, potential conflict, I had in my mind when you were talking. So if an argument does start brewing, do you just take time out from each other? Do you walk away and have time to yourself and sort of reconvene? How does that work when you're in the three principles context?
Go ahead.
I think it comes out in a lot of ways. I think ideally it's the best if you can realize that you as they would say, lost rapport, and nip it in the bud before things accelerate. And that's great. But I think it happens all kinds of different ways. But I think we're perfectly capable of recognition, even if it's a little late. And I think when a person starts to notice that they're caught up, it's really like a moment choice, and sometimes you don't do it. Sometimes you just allow it to accelerate. But it's I think that just, you can feel when you're caught up. And if I think that when people start to realize that they really want that they really want to recognize that. And always, not in our relationship, whether you're in the car and somebody's making you mad because they just cut you off or whatever. It's like, I think that that recognition, but inside is what you're looking for. And yeah. So there was something else I was going to say, and I don't know what it was, but there you go. Oh, I know what it was. The great thing about Joe and I is that even though we can get lost in it, and we're watching ourselves be lost in it, but we're still doing it, and we'll walk away, it's like, I mean, it's not any time at all where we'll turn around and it'll be gone. And the person, I think a very important part is when the other person recognizes when you come back in a good place to just accept that and not try to start it over again.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say? Because we're really fast. I mean, we can just get crazy and then we can walk out.
Because we have moods. Everybody's got moods.
Less than 30 seconds later, it's like, just, hey, it's over. Sometimes I apologize, and sometimes I just start talking from that state.
Just yesterday, we went skiing. I thought, oh, it's a perfect day to go skiing. We have a ski resort 10 minutes from our house. Not a very big one, and the weather report looked good. But then when we got there, the wind picked up, and the temperature started dropping and dropping. My hands were freezing. We were both cold and miserable, and this is our first time out skiing, and so we're kind of rusty. And so by the end of it, we were exhausted and in a crappy mood, just a really low mood. And we played pool. We came home, warmed up, played pool, and it was the worst game I've ever had, and I just couldn't shoot pool worth a damn. I thought, oh God, I'm going to go to my pool group tonight, and I'm not going to be able to play. And we were just both just kind of,
we were tired.
We were tired physically, and we were cranky. But it's just a thought storm. It's all it is. It's just a thought storm, a little bit of weather coming through. And if you know that, you just get your umbrella out, go closer to the fire, take a time out, wait for it to pass, and then have a conversation about it. If you try to talk about it in the middle of the storm, it doesn't usually go very well. It usually is a disaster that you have to ask for forgiveness for later. But if you know, hey, this isn't a good time, let's wait till we're both in a better place where we can listen and hear each other and have rapport, let's just hold that out. This is just common sense. This isn't a technique. This is just common sense. Keep your mouth shut until you can say something smart or wise.
Yeah, Anne Marie summed it up in the beginning when you said, do you just kind of move apart? And it's like, yeah, it's like all you're interested in is your own bearings. And then you can see when that other person's has their bearings back. If not, give them some space. It's really pretty simple.
So is any of this helpful to you folks that are listening or have any questions? Do you take questions, Anne Marie?
I do take questions, yes.
Are you okay with that now?
Well, maybe she was.
Sure, yeah. I was going to wait till the top of the hour, but it's fine to do it now. Whenever I'm happy for people to ask questions whenever they feel they want to ask anything or make any comment. Go on, Xandra. I can always rely on you to say something.
I was going to say,
I think Derek wants to say something.
I'm just going to say something quickly, not even really a question. It's just what you said, Michael, really struck with me, man, about everybody. I don't want to say exactly what you said. Everybody has their own direction, or everybody's got that within. And I see that a lot of my troubles and all that started when I'm always following other people's direction or watching somebody else's direction and trying to make mine match up with it. And when you said it, the context you said it just hit home that that direction doesn't change. The direction you're talking about, I've always had that. And just to tune into that and then see whatever direction it takes me can be different. But to have my own direction, I heard that, so that cut through, man. And even that poem sort of spoke to that a little, just knowing your own direction. Yeah, and that spoke to me so loud, man. Thank you, man. The two of you as well. Just watching you, I can see the love just beaming through my screen. I'm trying, my camera's off, I'm washing up this, I'm washing up. But yeah, my kitchen's full of love right now, man. Just you watching you two, I can see it, man. I love that, man. It's a beautiful thing to watch, man.
Thank you so much for sharing. Thanks. Yeah, thank you. That's really, really great. Yeah.
It's really,
and it is just, it's so funny because we always, there's so many things and we forget that there's really only one. If we do that, we can just enjoy all the rest of it. Only one. Yeah. Thank you.
I feel like we hit the lottery jackpot of relationships. And thank you, Sydney Banks, for, meeting him 4 hours from when I met Michael. That was like the coup de grace of that day. And but when I heard Sid, it wasn't exactly love at first sight, because everything he was saying was just taking my thought system and just twisting it in knots and throwing it away, and everything that I'd worked so hard at for a decade to finally achieve, and he just ripped it apart without intending to. He's just speaking the truth. And so with him, it took a while before I could really accept Sid, and I think that the divine intelligence, in a way, made sure that I fell in love with her. And she was always encouraging me, Joe, go down to do an internship in the principals. So she was pushing me in a way that I needed. I divinely picked the perfect person to encourage that part of me that was resistant or fearful of the unknown, or of really stepping into a whole new paradigm of psychology. Because I had a business built on it, I had a reputation, I had a partnership with another therapist, all of our clients. It was a huge deal. And I had to, but I didn't have to really even walk away. It was so weird. She, within 3 months, was offered a teaching position in California and left. And so it all kind of took care of itself in a real mystical kind of way. Remember that?
That's an example of
that's how the divine intelligence
how it all works. I mean, yeah, that's just
most of my friends thought I was crazy or was smoking pot or something. All kinds of rumors about me, including Chris Heath, thought I was nuts. And but she wanted someone to be in love with too. So how did you meet this? This is where you met her at this conference, and that really sucked her in. And but when she heard Roger Mills the first time, it was end of story. She could hear him, but she couldn't hear me. So that worked out perfect.
Well, he may have been a little bit better at explaining it too.
Yeah, probably.
It was new. It was new.
Yeah, I was just.
When it was a new time. I mean, that was the beginning. It was a new time, and I think it was great that the two of us were together because it was like a support system. Because it wasn't like you could just run out and start talking to somebody about Sid Banks and what you learned and da 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 da. It was like that would have been one of these, So it was a perfect timing to have this in all ways. But in that way, it was a support system.
Without your support, it would have been really difficult because my whole professional community thought I was nuts. And then later, when they saw the results with my clients, they got curious. Because our clients all sat in the same waiting room, and mine were getting better and theirs weren't. And so some of them came along for the ride and, were open to it. But it was really stepping out into the unknown because, even though the Twin Cities is several million people, it's a small community in terms of psychologists. And so there was a lot of, it was a big explosion because we were me and my partner, not Michael, but my business partner, were looked at as leaders in family therapy and all of this, and all of a sudden I was failing ship. So it was but without this support system, I don't know that I could have. Maybe I could have done it in a different way. I don't know.
It's just been
It
different.
sure worked out well that this was my one lover.
This was much more fun.
Anybody else have a question or a comment?
Yeah, hi guys. Great to see you.
Hey, Steve.
Really enjoying this conversation. What would you say to somebody who's new to the principles, a bit like myself, and been in a relationship for like 30 years? Because obviously I've still got all that old stale thinking. After 30 years in a relationship, which is a long time, it's hard to actually change certain aspects. So is there any advice or anything you could offer?
I don't know whether this is exactly what you're asking, but this has been popping into my head for just a little bit of something to address. And it's what I was thinking about, and your wife and may be into the principles and so forth, but if you're new, she's new or whatever, and depending on how much, people have, there's a lot of relationships where some people are more interested and less, or they just have a different way that they approach things. And then, but it is in the other person's world. And I did want, because we've kind of talked about how Joe and I met, I did think that we should talk about what it's like if someone doesn't have the same interest or whatever. And basically, it goes back to just going inside for ourselves. And there's many people, I remember, I don't want to say their name, but a long time person. Oh my God, just loving. And I remember we would go to, there was a lot of conferences. We'd go to these SID conferences and everything. Well, he was always there 100%, had been there from the very first SID talk. And his wife was the sweetest thing in the whole world. Maybe we were in San Francisco area or something. She would go during that time, and she would go take a course in making and decorating cakes. And I thought, wow, this is interesting. And I thought, oh, well, maybe she's not interested. And, she had the sweetest heart in the entire world. And I think every single person in this world has that connection. Work to their universal consciousness, who they truly are. And some people express that in many different ways. And it's like, even before the principles came, and Sid was able to describe this in such a wonderful way in a principle state to help people understand it deeper and deeper, the spiritual nature of what life really is. It's like, I think each person, no matter what their relationship is, when they come from that consciousness, there's an impact. And it wakes up. Well, I don't even know whether it wakes up, but it stimulates in that other person so they can come together in that space and work things out. And so I think mostly it's like I pay more attention to the one direction I'm going in than to our relationship, if that's helpful. And in doing that, what happens for me is that I learn the things that I need to learn, and this situation starts to open up differently, and I see deeper how to have a relationship. whether it be like us or whether it's a relationship with people in their office or whether it's the person that you're with in the grocery store. It's funny, love is a funny thing. Universal love is a funny thing. I can walk down the street. I remember when this happened to me, it started happening to me. I walked down the street, I'd see somebody, I would just like feel this deep love. I thought, whoa. And it had nothing to do with anything other than that coming through. And I thought, oh, it is impersonal and it is personal, if that's helpful.
Yeah, it's interesting, when Michael was talking, people are in relationship that have totally different religions, for example, and they're in love with each other.
Or one has one religion, one doesn't.
Or yeah, one's an atheist and one's a priest, or not a priest, a minister. If it was a priest, well then maybe they. But I was going to be a priest, so
it's not so funny.
But yeah, you love is what comes through you, not to you. And when you see that the source of love is within, then when you're in love and you have that one lover, you feel in love with everything. You feel in love with other people. So that's going to help a marriage, even if it's a mixed marriage where people aren't three principles or are. I know so many couples, like Michael was saying, that come to these conferences with Sid during the day when Sid was alive, and the one would go shopping or do other things, but their marriage kept getting better and better and better. And even though they just weren't drawn to hear about the three principles.
And it wasn't just because of the person that was going to the conference. That other person had a part in it. They're who they truly was growing as well. And people can be on that path and not even really be able to articulate it, but that's who we are.
Yeah.
All of us.
And the three principles aren't a club or a religion. It's just the way life works.
An explanation.
It's an explanation of how life works. So the deeper you understand how life works, the more you can come together with people of different faiths. I've taught the principles in Europe and India and Africa, you name it, anywhere in the world, and different cultures, different religions. Because you're talking about how it works, everybody that hears it goes, oh, that's just like Hinduism. That's just like the Upanishads. That's just like Zen. That's just like the Swahili religion tribe thing, or Catholicism, or Judaism, or Islam. If you got all the founders of all the religions together in one room, they'd all get along great. Their followers, not so much. So you don't have to think the same way to have a healthy relationship, because you found your realization of the truth through the principles. You can have a mixed marriage, a mixed relationship. So I say that because I think a lot of people think, well, I can only be with people who are in the three principles, otherwise I'll lose it. But then you don't have it, if you think that. Or you're not seeing it deeply. Because it's not anybody else's business what's going on in your mind. It's your mind. It's your temple. And no one can change that. And if you think they can change that, then you have something to see a little deeper. So that no one can threaten you unless you think they have the power to take something away from you. And so there's been a lot of misunderstanding around relationships forever, since the beginning of Adam and Eve, I guess. And a lot of misunderstanding about relationships within three principles as well. Because we're human. So, anybody else want to make a comment or have a question? It's a guy there from Glasgow, and I don't know who that is, with a big, beautiful picture of a mountain behind her. I'm not trying to put you on the spot. You don't have to say anything.
Anne Marie may have something that direction she wants to take things in.
Hi.
Sorry, carry on, Xander.
Did you want to say something, Anne Marie?
Only if nobody else had anything to say, but if you want to say something, go ahead.
I was basically giving everybody else a chance. I do that, you know. I always wait until last.
Xander.
Yes, Xander Glasgow.
The last letter of the alphabet. You're used to going last.
Sorry?
The last letter of the alphabet is
Z.
Z. So you're used to going last.
I don't know if it's I think it's an insecurity thing, you know. Let everybody else speak first. I'll just, you know, I like to sort of melt into the background. But you know, I once recently accused myself of being shy, and there was a lady in the room, and she rolled. She was well aware of who I am, and she rolled with laughter because I don't know, maybe I'm not as shy as I think I am. First of all, I loved your wee poem, Michael, and it was you know, it really spoke. And just as you were finishing, the opening drum roll of the Bob Marley song "One Love" sort of came into my mind, you know. Yeah, that was. I almost asked Alexa to play it. She didn't hear me, but I refrained from that. What I wanted to come on and say was that, in a way, I think, I don't know if there's a question in this, but the first, or even if there is a question, I don't know if I'm going to be able to articulate it very well. But the first, my wife and I, before she passed away in 2018, we were together for about 16 or 17 years. I honestly thought it was longer. But you know, sometimes the mind disappoints us, you know. But we were together for about 17 years, give or take. And the first few years of that relationship was really, I've used the word tumultuous. It was hectic. It was just, you know, and it was mainly because of my own insecurity, fear, the fear of loss. I don't know, just, you know, all nonsense. The last 4 years, there's obviously a bit in between, but that was the sort of the learning period, you know. At one point, I started a discussion group, and it was a spiritual discussion group. So we were looking at many different areas, belief systems and what have you. And we invited people from the various faiths and what have you in to come and talk to the group, sort of thing. And we had some awesome nights with you know, Krishnas and people who were doing Reiki and all sorts of people, even Muslims. We had we actually, they wouldn't come to us with the Muslims. We had to go to the place. But anyway, through those discussions, our perspectives changed. We Sharon, my wife, never ever got to the three principles, but I know that she would have grasped them immediately. We talked so much about various things like acceptance, and we even got to the point we were talking about you don't make me happy. but you can add to my happiness, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or not, you know, and I don't need you. I am whole without you. I mean, from this place of please don't leave me to I don't need you, but I'm glad you're I'm glad you're part of my life. And we even got to the point where the way I describe it is she would look over at me and say, "Oh, so that's what you're up to now," and I would do the same. I would look over at her and say, "Oh, so that's what you're up to now," and just let her get on with it. And it was so easy. And a man about 6 years prior to this had said that this couldn't happen. This could never ever happen. And we proved them wrong. But anyway, we never told them that. I am in the process, starting in February, actually, I'm going to be talking on my Facebook page. I won't mention it because I'm not here to advertise it. However, no, I'm serious. Incidentally, Joseph, I've just, is it Joe or Joseph? I've just bought your book.
Joe.
Joe. Okay. During this call, I've just went on to Amazon and bought a copy of your book, Slowing Down the Speed of Love.
Okay. Oh, great.
I've done that about half an hour ago. So I don't really know that I've got a question. Can you speak about that? I mean, Sid Banks talked a lot about insecurity, didn't he? You know, and I'm going to be putting together some kind of talk or something for my page on Facebook. But I was wondering, just you know, is there something I can glean from you from that about insecurity? Yeah, it's a kind of cheeky question, but there you have it. Can you talk about insecurity? Did you even experience that at the beginning of your relationship in any way, shape, or form? Either of you?
Yeah. Frequently.
Yeah.
You know, I don't really feeling insecure. It's just you get out of balance. You feel a little something happens you didn't know. It's unexpected, or your mood drops. Whatever you know. We live in and out of insecurity, but with understanding and consciousness, we can be aware that the insecurity isn't coming from what we're thinking about, but from how we're using this power of thought in the moment innocently. And when we see past what we think is making us insecure to the truth, which is our thinking, it just, oh yeah, that's right. I always call this flat forehead therapy, because you're always going, God, why didn't I see this again this time? How do I keep missing this? Because it's so tricky, thought. It's so tricky. It's so elusive because it's invisible. It's a principle like gravity. You can't see gravity, but you see the effects of it, right? So you can fall down on your ass easily if you're not looking. And the same thing with the principle of thought or mind or consciousness. When you forget who's creating the experience from the inside out, then you trip and you feel insecure. But what triggered Sid's realization was a psychologist saying to him, he was going on and on and on about his problems in his marriage and how he was always an insecure person in Scotland and here and there and everywhere he lived. He said, well, Sid, you're not really insecure, you just think you are. And that's the saying. That was the moment that hit Sid like a avalanche, and it exploded his mind. And that was the beginning of his enlightenment, was that sentence that he saw. And he said to the psychologist, well, if that's true, sir, did you hear what you said? That means everything is a thought. Everything is thought. Well, I wouldn't go so far as to say that, the psychologist said. So Sid heard more than the psychologist said. And he was just a welder. But that changed his life, and my life, and her life, your lives, and hundreds of thousands of people on the planet's life from that one statement about insecurity. You're not really insecure, Sid. You just think you are. Boom.
I'd like to say something to that.
Sure.
This may or may not mean anything to you, but I think it's worth mentioning. It's like, I think sometimes we compare ourselves or whatever. I remember one time when I was really young, and in a situation I was really quiet, and I thought, and I mean, I was like, I don't know, maybe barely out of high school, maybe in high school or something. I thought, does that mean I'm shy? Well, I'm not shy. And I just let it go and didn't think too much about it. But I did have an appreciation that we have like many, many levels of where we are that aren't necessarily insecure. And sometimes we're trying to compare ourselves, or we'll notice some whatever. And just like you said, well, I'll wait till the end. Well, hey, maybe that's just perfect. Maybe you need to take things in. It's like, and whatever. And so Joe has this description of me. Like, I seem really animated, and I can be really animated. And he has this description of me. He says, you're kind of what was it, friendly hermit?
No, you're an extroverted hermit.
You're an extroverted hermit. And because there's a part of me that really enjoys just sitting back and being really quiet. And then there's a part of me which, in social situations, sometimes I am and sometimes I'm not, but I'm comfortable with it. And I think that I never thought about it much, but I think that sometimes we don't realize how faceted we are. We have so many aspects to ourselves, and we've only associated ourselves with certain descriptions that we've thought, or other people gave us.
Labels.
And just like I think I heard you say that when you said that you were shy and somebody that knew you very well rolled their eyes, well, there you have it. So I don't know. I just thought that it's kind of nice to, it's just kind of nice to appreciate all parts of ourselves.
That's why this psychology, we're not into labeling people, diagnosing, with a illness, even though people may be classified schizophrenic or alcoholic or this or that. You aren't your symptoms. You are not your personality. That's not who you are. That's just a temporary thing. That's just an identity that you've created through thought. But when you see who you really are, you can change and expand and transcend and still use it every now and then. It's like you're not pigeonholed into who you think you are, because who you are is so much bigger than you actually think you are. You're infinite. So the more you see that, the more life gets really interesting and really exciting, and it's such an adventure. It's just, and so is a relationship. It's just we've been together a long time. We've been through hard times and challenges and difficulties, and like any couple. But all of those hiccups in our marriage have been precious jewels that ended up being an insight that led to another transformation. So you don't want to be afraid of your problems, of your issues, of your blind spots. They're trying to show you something. They're trying to wake up something in you didn't know was there. So there's no problem with mistakes. They're just mistakes, like in the movies. Take one. Cut that one. Take two. So mistakes are just different opportunities you have to redo it. You get a do-over.
I want to say one little thing that might mean something to some people that
Here's something really big coming.
I don't know that, and I think this is true for all of us, but some people, some people have a lot of physical problems and stuff like that. And so on and so forth. And I think that they misunderstand some of their chemistry changes as like something like, and mix it up with their moods and so on and so forth. And so, and so they start to make something out of it rather than just letting, oh, well, okay, whoa, that was just an allergy thing. And we don't even have to know what it is, but our chemistry is changing all the time. And many, many years ago, I drank some horribly bad contaminated water that was going through a water system that was probably full of
Farm chemicals.
Farm chemicals, et cetera, et cetera. Well, so it kind of messed my system up to a degree. So for 30 years, I would wake up at 6 o'clock, lay there feeling really till 8 o'clock, 3 o'clock to 6. I don't remember what it was. Certain length of time. And then I'd go get an extra bit of sleep. I'd be fine. Well, I knew that it was not who I was or what I thought my problems were. Now I realized your body, I would have this feeling that later I thought, well, what does it feel like? Well, it felt like insecurity. Well, of course, my body was insecure during this time. All that stuff would get crazy. But I just ignored it. I just went, oh, yeah. So my body was giving me as much information, and I knew, and I just let it go. But had I not known the principles, I could, oh, I feel so insecure. What am I insecure about? Oh, well, it must be my marriage. Oh, it must be this. Oh, it must be that. And I would have spent from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. having that experience. But I didn't. I just went, eh. So whether it be a physical change in our chemistry or our whole thought system getting caught up in something in a low mood, it really doesn't matter. We don't have to do anything with it at all. And the beauty of just knowing what we're only interested in is that universal wisdom coming through, giving us information and guidance and so on and so forth. We don't have to think about it. So it's really kind of makes it easy, doesn't it? It's that one thing again, only one thing. So it makes it anyway. So I just wanted to bring the health issue because Joe has asked me to work with a few people that had health issues, and what had happened was the chemistry would do whatever it was doing, but they got mentally involved. And so I know that happens for people, and it happens for a lot of times we eat something, who knows? One way, all the days.
Okay. Unless there's anything else anybody would like to say or add or comment on or ask, I'm happy to bring it to a close.
Sounds good.
Can I just say quickly, Anne-Marie, before you close?
Mm-hmm.
I just wanted to come back to Joe and Michael. It was some way through 2019, I believe it was. I went through this experience where I suddenly thought I'm introverted, and that was a shock. Oh no, I'm introverted. This is going to be a problem. This, I got really upset about it, and then I thought, wait a minute, no, I can't be introverted because there's times I'm really forthcoming and what have you. And so I did a little research, and then I found the word ambivert. Well, we know what ambi means. Ambi means two, so it means that sometimes I'm introverted, sometimes I'm extroverted, and so yeah, I'm ambivert, and so and that became a thing. And then I thought, wait a minute, introverted, extroverted, ambivert. It's all just label, you know. Just I am what I am. I am who I am when I am that, whatever that is, and sit with that, because you know sometimes I'm back here going, no, don't talk to me. I'm not even putting my camera on. And then there's other times I'm like, yeah, I want to talk about this, you know. And either way, it's okay.
That's right.
And who knows, in the next moment, you might be something you've never been before.
Yep.
Yep.
Anyway, lovely seeing you all.
Hey,
Bye.
Good to see all of you.
Cool. Bye.
happy Valentine's Day, everybody.
Yeah.
Happy Valentine's Day.
How do you do that?
Things like that. I think.
I'm not very good at that here.
I'm not very good at it either.
That's the first time I've ever done. Can you tell?
What? What was that?
Can you tell it's the first time he's ever done it?
Oh, okay.
See you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.